Are you interested in an at-home side hustle? Not only one where you can creatively take control of the product, the pricing, but reach a customer base largely around your passion. In essence, turning your passion into profit. We're going to talk about self-publishing today with a self-publishing and Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing or KDP expert, Keith Wheeler of Keith Wheeler Books here on YouTube. I'm excited for this because as someone who helps you make money in different side hustles, I have zero experience in this. And this is something actually, little spoiler alert, I'm interested in myself creating a long form piece of content, a publication. So with that, Keith, welcome to the channel. How's it going?
Thanks, Mike. It's going great. Glad to be here.
Hey, I'm excited about this because again, I was talking to you before we started here, zero experience. And again, as someone who's just trying to look at different ways right now where people are looking for gigs, they're looking for side hustles, they're looking for ways to make money and possibly turning that side hustle into a full-time hustle. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Not only, I mentioned Amazon KDP, but I know that's just a touch of what you do. Tell us about your experience in just the self-publishing space at large.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started self-publishing books in 2016. I currently have over 1,000 books published across different niches and genres and pen names. About 40 of those are written books. I've done low content books like journals and notebooks and puzzle books, written books like picture books for children and young adult novels and short reads. And I have a YouTube channel now where I show other people how to self-publish their own books.
That's awesome. And if someone was just trying to get started, what would you say is an easy way to get started if I have no idea where to begin? Is it Amazon KDP, or how did you get started as far as researching from the initial ideation phase until, let's say, the launch phase?
Yeah, I mean, as far as when you want to upload, then KDP is definitely the way to go. But as far as like coming up with ideas, I always suggest start with something that you have a passion for. Because then you know what the needs are, you know what the inside lingo is and things like that that can really make your book stand out opposed from somebody who's new to that particular niche.
So KDP, folks, if you don't know, it's Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. So I can produce, tell us, Keith, it's like this low content versus high content. What's involved in that? And again, I don't think there's, one that's maybe better than the other. Maybe you can tell us here, but talk to us a little bit about those choices.
Yeah. First of all, like when it comes to what is KDP, KDP is the industry or gig is self-publishing books. KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, is the platform that you can publish the books on. So like food delivery would be the gig, DoorDash and Uber Eats would be the platform. So that's kind of how it's related. There are other platforms, but I always suggest when you first start out to start out with KDP. So when it comes to the low content books, obviously they're going to be shorter time frames to create. Basically, there means there's little to no writing inside it. And then written content or is long form content is the other option, or high content, depending on who you're talking to, on what they call it. But it's, as far as which is better, it's easier, obviously, and quicker to put out the low content books. But as far as getting a return on your investment in the long term, written content is really where you can really see higher profits because you can charge higher for the books and things like that.
See, that's what I was thinking. I appreciate you sharing that because, and I'll leave some resources for you folks, as well as Keith's channel linked down below in the description. I did an intro video on this, and that's just to reiterate what Keith said there, is that low content, usually it's less content. You can almost think about it as almost like a blank page, fillable by the user, journals, notebooks, and then that high content, it could be anything from technical manuals to novels. It's something that's not filled in by that user. Now, just to give a little bit more background in the intro, when Keith and I were talking, Keith's experience ranges of over 1,000 publications in the self-publishing space, including Amazon KDP, including 40 written books specifically as well. So who's KDP a good fit for? Now, I think about I think about drop shipping. Let's talk about, highlight that, the drop shipping or Amazon, fulfilled by Amazon, FBA.
Right.
That's highly competitive. At least that's what I think about. Is KDP super competitive? It's an Amazon thing. How do you kind of rise above the noise there?
I mean, it can be competitive. A lot of it just depends on the niche. Just like with FBA, it depends on what your product is. So definitely finding something that you're passionate about, it makes it easier to kind of put that time in. Who it's good for is anybody who's willing to put in the effort. I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy time consuming or anything like that, but it's not a get rich quick. As far as being competitive, like I said, it depends on the niche, but there's plenty of money to go around when it comes to publishing books on Amazon.
Well, I think that is super powerful right there because, folks, I'm telling you, I've been doing gig work almost 10 years now, and Keith is very experienced in this space as well. There's a lot of money out there. Don't be afraid that there's not money out there. There is. Think about how many just monthly consumers are using this platform right here, YouTube. Think about what's called the total addressable market, or the TAM of that audience. How many people use notebooks and journals? How many people read? It is tens, hundreds of millions of people. So if your product stands out, it's going to stand out. But Keith, if I'm just starting, what do I need to know when starting? Because I did my research on an intro, let's say to KDP. Should I be in there reading their support articles? I saw things about formatting. You mentioned pricing. Like, how did you map out where to start?
I think the short answer is I just did it. Done is better than perfect is something that I like to tell people all the time, especially when you're first starting out. And again, like I've said numerous times, there are plenty of platforms out there. KDP, I think, is the best one. It's the one I always suggest people start with because it's the most intuitive. There's 3 tabs to go through. There's little icons where if you need more info, and they've got tutorials on their own platform. They also obviously you can go to YouTube and look things up. And it's owned by Amazon, so you get direct access to the Amazon's marketplace. Other platforms can still put your book on Amazon, but you're going to get less royalties because now there's a middleman in between. So there's so much potential out there, and like you said, as long as someone's willing to put a little bit of time into it, that whether it's a consumable, is what low content books are consumables. You use it up, you got to go buy another one, or if it's written content. Either way, there's so much potential.
Well, I like the part about reusables because there's something to be said about the business model of, hey, listen, I know, folks, we don't love recurring subscriptions. I've had my fair share of recurring subscriptions, but if it's something you truly get value in, I mean, we have plenty of things that are reusable that we don't mind buying it again because they're disposable items, what have you. So the journals, I fill it up, whatever it is.
Right.
So if I'm getting started, like you mentioned, I like it. Just start dirty, get ready. And I teach an E3 principle: educate, execute, and expand. In that first phase, educate yourself. Like Keith said, watch YouTube videos. That is frankly what I did here on YouTube to understand YouTube. So do the same thing. There's a lot of great resources, and you can check out Keith's website as well. We leave that linked in the show notes for more resources there. So the problems, though, I mean, let me ask you this. Do I even need writing experience? I mean, listen, we're filming this in 2025. There's AI, there's Chat GPT. I could just talk to Chat GPT and say, hey, I'm going to have a conversation and write it down in an editorial format to take away my ums and ahs and stuff. Mm-hmm. So what experience, if any, do you need? Like, how does that writing process start?
So if you want to do written content, I mean, the short answer is you don't need to be an expert at anything. You don't need to even be a great writer. You said AI. When you go into KDP, when you upload your book, there's actually a question that asks if you used AI to generate it. So you just need to be honest on if you did, how much you did. But I mean, as far as writing, it really comes down to, it's more important to find out what the topic you want to write about is. And then I say just write it, just write it. What you're writing is the first draft, just like in school. It's not going to be what you publish, but getting something started, and then you can use AI to help edit it, help reword it, reword it in, in a more playful manner, in a more professional manner, depending on what type of book it is.
Well, I think that's super powerful because, I mean, even now in my business here, I'm using Chat GPT. I'm helping to format my courses better. I'm helping to format my sales pitch copy better. Don't be afraid of using some help. I mean, from a platform that is already extremely sophisticated. Yes, you can reach out to professional authors, copywriting, or editorial coaches if you want. That's going to be up to you. So I want to circle back to the process though. So we know what we want to write about. On writing the first draft, how long would it take you? And I know this is going to vary. How long does it take you, or maybe an average user, to write, low content, journal or what have you, versus high content? How many drafts am I going to have to do? Because again, I'm kind of asking partly for myself because I'm interested in a high content piece here. And I guess it's kind of like, the more you put in, maybe the more you put out. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yes and no, because there's a point where you can just be putting so much time and effort into tweaking and everything else. It's like I said, done is better than perfect. That you end up just sitting on something. I've seen people who have sat on a book that they're writing for years, and it's not really any better than it was last year and the year before. So obviously you don't want to put out hot garbage, but there's a happy medium in there. And obviously, when it comes to low content is going to be quicker to turn around. It's possible, and I've done it, to create a book, publish it on KDP within 24 hours. Absolutely, I've done it.
So my question, I appreciate you sharing that, because that gives me a time frame of maybe low content versus high content, right. And putting effort into each of those respectively. I've seen, just from other creators in the self-publishing space here, some of them having a big portfolio. I know yourself, we're talking 1,000 publications here, low content, high content. And we talked about, hey, low content's easier, but you can price higher with high content.
Right.
Is there something to be said? And I actually asked this in my video about having a larger portfolio. It's almost like more at bats, if you will, for like sales impressions and getting your product out there. What are your thoughts about scaling to a larger portfolio and what that could do for your business?
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you're sticking, if you create a brand, and by brand, it could just be simply the author name that you publish under. And again, this is whether it's written content or low content. If you put more products out there, then you have better chances of getting visibility, and a lot of times it's the 80-20 rule applies, where 80% of your money is going to come in from 20% of the products that you put out. So as long as you're putting out good quality, then having a larger portfolio will definitely better your chances of getting eyes on your product.
And I got to steal a comment, an insight that I've heard from another YouTube channel, Think Media, who's so stellar in what they do. Cream always rises to the top, no matter how many cups of coffee you pour. Exactly. So if you're producing quality, you get 5 sales, people like, this is really good. And then they share it with, let's say, a family member or a business colleague, what have you. And word of mouth, especially now with social media. I'll add this to your point. If you can have a social presence, wonderful lead generator for your business. I know you have your YouTube channel, Keith Wheeler Books. So let's transition now to creating that successful business. I think we're kind of getting there now. So I'm starting messy. I'm creating drafts. I'm monetizing my passion. Obviously, there's challenges. Obviously, there's competition. But if you research quality materials, maybe look for areas in the market that have opportunities. Exactly. How do I build a successful business? And not getting into, specific financials, but how do you price maybe to start and then scale? Can you talk about a little bit of the infrastructure of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the biggest thing is, one is, like I said, try to create a brand, and try to make every book better than the one before it. But it really comes down to, I think the number one is consistency in your quality, consistency in your, brand image, your pricing, and then also how frequently you put out new books. And that's going to depend on obviously what kind of books you're putting out. Obviously, you can put out low content books more frequently than you can, if you're writing epic novels. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest things is being consistent. So your customers can become repeat customers because they've come to know, like, and trust your brand. When it comes to pricing, what I usually do, and this is what I always suggest, is go into the niche that you're looking to create for. And again, whether it's low content or no or high content, and see what your competition's charging. You don't want to be the cheapest because people have a tendency to think that there must be something wrong with it. But if you're just starting out, you don't want to be the most expensive either. So somewhere in the middle is a good place to be. And then
I like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then for the best success, after you have a few books on your belt, especially if you're doing written content, I suggest doing what we call publish wide, which means don't just be on Amazon. You can be on different platforms. You can have different versions if it's a written content. So you can have an ebook, you can have the print version, you can have the audiobook version. So again, your customers are everywhere. And so you want your book to be everywhere and minimize the barrier of entry by giving them as many options as possible.
I love that. That's gold right there. Drop a like in this video. Check out Keith's channel. Drop a like in this video if you appreciate that, because it is more sticks in the fire. It's more impressions and it's more sales to the right customer. Maybe we talked about total addressable market, the TAM for physical, let's say, paperback, hardcover, but then there's some consumers that want to use your product in a different way, consume the product in a different way. Are audiobooks included in this or no?
Yeah. In what? The audiobooks are not on KDP.
Gotcha.
But Amazon does have a platform called ACX and Audio Creation Exchange, and it's pretty much the same way. They have narrators there that you can hire to narrate your book. So it still will be on Amazon. And through KDP, you can have them all linked. So you can have the ebook version, and again, this is if it's written content, the ebook version, the paperback. If some countries you have access to hardcover, and then an audiobook. So again, there's something for everybody. You want to give them the least amount of chances to say no. And so if and audiobooks, I mean, that's something that it's the only way you can consume a book and do something else at the same time.
And just for my own clarity and our viewers, what was that it was Amazon ACX or
ACX.
ACX.
Yeah, and that's for the audiobook version.
That's perfect. I didn't even know about that. I did not even know about, and linking it is perfect, because if I had a listing, and I've seen this, on Amazon, you see the hardcover option. I don't want that. Paperback. Oh, it breaks down too much. Give me the hardcover. Or I don't want to have a bunch of books, but I consume a lot. Audiobooks right there. That's perfect. So I want to go back to the pricing though, as we kind of summarize the business model here. You talked about pricing in the middle. Now, talk to us a little bit about the royalties, because there's a 35% royalty, there's a 70% royalty, but you can only get 70% under certain pricing parameters. Do you have a strategy around which royalty you go for? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. And just to be clear, the 35% and 70% royalties, that's for ebooks. So if you want to do like low content, so like journals and things like that, then that's completely off the table, because you can't do that in a digital format. It has to be a print book. For ebooks, typically I will do 70%, with the exception of if I'm doing a children's picture book, because with the 35%, the ACX or not ACX, KDP will eat the charge of the data file. And because children's books are usually, heavy in color, they're bigger files, it's actually cheaper, and I make a higher royalty if I do 35% than if I do 70%, but then they take out that digital charge. As far as paper, whether it's hardcover or print, with KDP, you get 60% royalty.
Gotcha. So with the 70%, off the top of your head, if you remember here, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, up to $9.99, like $10, but between $2.99. Do you remember
Right.
off the top by
No,
chance?
it is. It's exactly that. It's between $2.99 and $9.99, which means, even the high of $9.99, fine, whatever. But to tell me I can't put my ebook at 99 cents, maybe I want to run a sale and make it 99 cents on my first book in my series, and then get them hooked, and then my other books will be more expensive. In order to get that 70%, you have to be within that little sweet spot of $2.99 to $9.99.
Gotcha. And okay, so that is for the ebooks only, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's not low content, right?
Correct.
Okay. So no journals, notebooks, perfect. Can't be on 70% royalty. So, okay, you said what, all of the portfolio is on 70%, or is it most of it?
Most of my ebooks,
Ebooks, gotcha.
So my written content, most of them are on the 70%, with the exception of the children's books, and even some of the children's books, depending on how many pages they are, basically how big the file size is. If the file size is reasonable to where it's not gonna cost me a lot in the data, then I'll still do 70%. And the good thing is in KDP, it'll show you both prices, 35% and 70%. It'll show you what your royalties will be on both. So you don't have to kind of figure it out on your own. It's right there in black and white.
I like that. Now, all right, I'm fascinated by this. I appreciate you sharing all this.
Yeah.
And we don't even have to go into financials, because this gives you a perfect ideation of what you might go for, folks. Let me know down below in the comments, kind of low content, high content, what you would be thinking about. Now, I want to stand out. Now, like you said, you may not want to be the lowest price. It has a connotation of like, oh, why is this, right, technical manual on engineering, C++ or whatever. Why is it like $2? You're like, come on, guys. But I still want to stand out. Obviously, I want as many sales as possible. I know there's SEO, there's some keyword tagging, there's stuff like that. But there's also some free options, but I would imagine paid options. Should someone look at any paid advertising? I'm not even sure exactly placements, maybe just on Amazon. I don't know if it's on other websites. Do you do any advertising? If so, when should someone that's new look at advertising, or should they just use the free resources?
Okay, so that's a great question. Yeah, you can run, and that's another reason why I like to use KDP, is because you get access to Amazon ads. So you can run Amazon ads to your books. And if you have the discretionary funds, then obviously it's going to get more visibility. You have better chances of getting your book cover and your book seen by people. And so that's always an option. And I mean, that could be a whole nother episode, but as far as that would be something that you can run, whether it's written content or even low content. I've run ads to journals before. I've run ads to puzzle books before. It really comes down to making sure that you set proper profit margin for yourself, that it's actually going to make you money at the end, so you don't lose money on ads just to get a couple sales.
Now, this is fascinating to me. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I'm thinking about maybe the tie-in to what we do here on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Is there anything, let's say, that would hurt your listing? Maybe click-through rates of your ads. They can't really measure retention on a book that they don't know how much they read it. Return rates, I would assume, maybe. Is there anything that would hurt your listing? Like it's been on the platform for 180 days, you got one sale, anything like that?
Okay, well, first, when you first publish a book, within the first 30 days, it's considered a new release. And so Amazon puts it in an additional category called new releases for whatever categories you want your book in. And so you already have basically double the views and potential views already. The algorithm that first 30 days is going to push you a little bit more because you're a new release. As far as being, what helps and hurts, really it comes down to sales. It comes down to Amazon's number one priority is obviously the customer, and they care about relevancy. And so that's one reason why keyword research and things like that are super important, because they want to give, when someone types something in the search engine, they want to make sure that they give them what they think they're going to turn into a sale. So whether you're running ads or not, it really comes down to that relevancy and how far they scroll. Do they click on it every time they see your book? Do the clicks turn to sales? Do the sales turn into reviews? Because reviews are super important, because that gives that social proof. And so again, that all tells Amazon algorithm that that your book is relevant to whatever they typed in. So if they typed in something and it pulls it up, and they clicked, that means it was relevant. If they turned it into a buy, then it was even more relevant. If they come back and give a review, it's even more relevant. So relevancy is key, and it's the same thing whether you run ads or not.
That's super clear, because what's kind of today's currency, folks? It's attention. And this is more reason, I mean, you don't have to do this, but this is more reason why you might want to pair your business with a presence on socials. If you have an email list, at least a website, get some excitement, especially like Keith said, for the first 30 days. If you're driving, I don't even know, 500 impressions, which is feasible, and you get a high buy and click-through rate on that, because in part you have a presence on social, and that's a whole nother strategy we could talk about. Let me know if you want to have Keith back on the channel here. That is extremely powerful for sales. And I guess kind of, lastly, as we kind of put a bow on it here, how important, I guess, because let's say I'm running ads to it, just like here on YouTube, we eat with our eyes first. We might look at a product with our eyes first, here in this case with the product. Cover arts, titling, I know there's some SEO again. How much time, do you do it yourself? Do you hire that out? What do you think about your covers and whatnot?
Regardless of what we were taught as kids, people judge a book by its cover. And so probably within the first couple of years of me doing this business and turning a profit, I hire out and I have somebody else do all of my book covers. Even if you're you're great in visual design, and doesn't mean you can make a great book cover. And you need to do what we call stop that scroll. And so book covers are key. I come up with the titles. Again, I do use a little keyword research to figure out, kind of tweak the title. AI is a great way to do that. ChatGPT or whatever. Just, I've got this book. This is the topic. Give me some really catchy titles that would do well on Amazon.
Now, that gets me thinking about exactly kind of what I've done with thumbnails. It's kind of like, as a business owner, what are you good at? What are you great at? And what are you decent at, but you can get a better ROI hiring that out? And as a business owner, I mean, you're driven, you're focused, you have a laser vision on where you want to, I get it. But I mean, if you're like me, it's like, you got to pry that responsibility out of my hand because I want to do everything. You have to allocate. So my example, just hiring out a graphic designer to do my thumbnails, very akin to what Keith is doing with cover art. I can do it. He can do it. But the ROI, or the ROAS, the return on ad spend for just hiring that darn thing out, it's a business expense, and you get a 3% higher click-through rate, a 7% higher click-through rate. So with that, Keith, leave us with some final thoughts, maybe where you see KDP and self-publishing going in 2025, new things maybe you're excited about looking forward. And again, folks, definitely check out the resources we'll leave linked in the description for Keith's channel.
One thing I absolutely love about this business, and like I said, I've been doing it since 2016, is it's ever changing. Like, there's always something new coming out on the horizon, new platforms, whether it's some, a competitor to KDP, or maybe, it's audiobooks, using AI. There's so much potential. And I'm just really excited with a lot of the changes that I see for the better coming in the future in 2025 for self-publishing books. And like I said, the biggest thing I could say is just done is better than perfect. It's not going to be perfect when you first start out. And as long as you're improving, that's all that matters.
Man, that is super powerful. This flew by. We didn't even crack the tip of the iceberg. We're standing on top of the tip of the iceberg here because there's a ton of resources that I'm excited to continue to get into in this space. Keith, I appreciate you coming on the channel today.
Thanks for having me.
And folks, my goodness, I'm excited to develop my own product, and I hope you're excited to at least to research it. Just to get started, think about, again, you don't have to be master technician. I got to do a tech manual on engineering 405. What I was thinking 101 class, 405 is apparently higher. You get the point here. You can do low content, but in a way that stands out. So again, check out Keith's content down below. Drop a like on this video. My name is Mike. All I do is help you make money in different side hustles, and I'll see you soon.